As the President of the United States just a few moments ago, a lot to unpack there, so let me recap it quickly. He said there at the end that Vice President Joe Biden has done some very bad things. I should say there's no evidence of that, no evidence that he pressured Ukraine to do anything. There are, however, as we've learned over the course of this last week through multiple reports, evidence that Rudy Giuliani, the President's personal attorney, did try to get Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden's son, and that the President brought this up on a telephone call with the leader of Ukraine. Again, it was a wide-ranging conversation there on the South Lawn of the White House. He talked about the trip that he's about to take to Houston for a rally that's being convened by the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Modi. That's scheduled to take place tonight. And he talked about this phone call in question, variously characterizing that as a nice conversation, a straight, very honest conversation, going on to say it was a perfect call, then an absolutely perfect call, then an absolute 10 during the course of those remarks, which lasted about 10 minutes. And he talked about how he hopes that that conversation will be released to the public, that he hopes there will be a transcript of that released to the public to showcase what he just described. I should say there is a contradiction therein to those comments, as the President expressed displeasure over the fact that people were listening in to that conversation. Well, the senior senator from Delaware is still with us. Chris Coons, a supporter of Vice President Biden, listening to that as we were all listening to that. I want to get your reaction to it and to that part in particular, if you would, Senator Coons. His sense of how a call like this is supposed to be conducted, diplomatic protocol, what is supposed to emerge from a conversation between the leader of one country and another?
David, well, that was quite an exchange with President Trump on the White House lawn as he's about to take off for Texas. As with regards to the call with the president of Ukraine, President Zelensky, there should be a transcript of it, as the president seemed to bridle over the idea that there are recordings and transcripts made of hearings and of conversations between heads of state. I think this could easily be put to rest, not by relying on a press statement by the Ukrainian government, but by releasing to Congress and the public the actual transcript of this call. The somewhat meandering and largely unfocused nature of that engagement with the press that we just saw also gives me pause. As President Trump goes to the United Nations General Assembly next week, he's going to have a whole series of meetings with heads of state from around the world. There's a very tense situation in the Persian Gulf with Iran and Saudi Arabia. He does, according to press reports, plan to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky. And as you made some reference to, and one of the press corps members who was on the lawn referenced, the key issue here is the combination of the transcript of the conversation between President Zelensky and our President, Donald Trump, but also what President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, may have done, may have said in meetings with Ukrainian representatives as that $250 million in critical military aid was being held up and slow-walked over several months.
I should say the President saying, I hope they put it out. And that word hope has a different definition when the President of the United States says it. Of course, he could authorize this to be released. I'll ask you lastly, just to react to what you heard there, what the President raised, the comments that he made about Hunter Biden. This can now be distilled rather simply. It's something we heard from Rudy Giuliani the other night on CNN. We've heard on Fox News over and over again this week. The points to this specious story are simple and easy and repeated over and over and over again. How does the Biden campaign, how do you and others react to that? The public being bludgeoned by these rumors, by this speculation, by these false stories here in these coming days?
David, my gut reaction is here we go again. In the 2016 campaign, President Trump repeated baseless allegations about Hillary's emails over and over and over, to the point where the average American, the average voter, couldn't really tell you what it was actually about and what the actual implications were, but they just had the vague impression that there was something inappropriate that might have happened. That is exactly what President Trump is trying to do here. That's what Rudy Giuliani is trying to do. And I hope that both the media and an informed electorate won't take the bait and simply repeat these baseless allegations. This has been looked into by a dozen different news sources. They've said there's nothing to it. And to allow the president to demonstrate that he views former Vice President Biden as his strongest rival, and to demonstrate that by going after him and his family over and over with a baseless allegation, I think would simply repeat one of the worst moments of the 2016 campaign, where the debate was largely dominated by a whole series of attacks against Hillary Clinton, references to Benghazi and to the emails, that if you actually looked into the underlying substance, there was nothing that justified that level of constant attention to those issues. We've got a lot of issues in the world. We've got a lot of reasons to be concerned about the Persian Gulf, for example. I think Joe Biden is the best qualified candidate in the Democratic field to move us forward in a way that will make our country not just prosperous, but more secure in an uncertain world.
All right, Senator Chris Coons, thank you very much for the time. I know it was longer than you expected, given the time.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.